Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jack, and I will be your guide in this podcast path along the paranormal. Boy, say that 3 times fast. I have been a paranormal enthusiast since I was a young teenager, and I have read everything and watched everything you could find as I grew up. I've had a few encounters myself over the years. I have investigated locations in Arizona, Alaska, here in Kentucky, and Indiana. So I decided it was time to start a podcast, and this is it. We are going to look into haunted locations, conspiracy theories, unsolved disappearances, and unexplained mysteries. And we are going to also cover investigations that my team and I have conducted. And this episode is going to cover 2 of those investigations. On a side note, I'd like to let you know that this podcast is also available on our YouTube channel, River City Paranormal Investigations. That's because the 2 investigations we're going to discuss today, the 2 locations, I had the luck to capture photographic and video evidence of the paranormal. So go on over there and check it out. In the meantime, find yourself something to drink, turn out the lights, get comfortable as we begin talking paranormal. Our first investigation was of an old bed and breakfast. Now I will say that this had to be what I will classify as my very first true intentional investigation. When we rented the room, we went there with the intention that I was going to stay up all night and play Junior Ghostbuster. That's what I called myself at the time. So, let's get into our story, shall we? The Old Talbott Tavern is a 2-story building that was built in 1779 and sits in Bardstown, Kentucky. It was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1973. It is listed as one of the oldest Western stagecoach stops still in operation today. George Talbott purchased the tavern in 1886, and sadly, within 2 years of that event, 6 of his children passed away in the tavern. Now, this is the only death that I can link to or associate with the Talbott Tavern during my research for this podcast. The tavern has 6 rooms. They're all on the 2nd floor, and they are named after historical figures who have stayed at the hotel. They are the Washington Irving Room, who wrote Sleepy Hollow, the Daniel Boone Room, the Anton Heinrich Room, the Jesse James Room, the General's Quarters, and the Lincoln Suite. So, this is going to bring me to my first encounter we had at the Talbott Tavern. This picture is a rough sketch of the room we stayed in, the Anton Heinrich Room. It's only about 25 by 25 feet. The rooms aren't very big. You can see where I was sitting at the foot of the bed in front of the TV. I was playing with the remote control looking for something on TV to watch. We were really just discussing our dinner options at this point. It was only about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And she was sitting at the head of the bed right there beside the nightstand across from the bathroom, and she was thumbing through a journal that is left in the room for people to record any experiences they might have while they're staying at the hotel. So we were sitting there, as I said, and suddenly the doorknob started to jiggle like somebody was trying to open it. All right, this next picture is going to be a picture of the hallway. All right, we were in the corner where it says us. It's upside down. I'm sorry about that. This was all drawn from memory. And when the doorknob started to jiggle, I got up. I looked at her and got up. I mean, you can look again. It didn't take me but 2.5 steps to get to the door. I'm 6'1", 6'2", and I was at the door in 3 steps maximum. So I threw the door open. I was staring straight out the 30-foot length of hallway, and I looked to my right down the 80-foot length of hallway, and there was nobody in the hall. I walked very briskly, almost ran down the 30-foot hallway into the common area. And the common area's it's got a table, some couches, some chairs for people to sit and socialize. And there's a flight of stairs that go down and hook around on the landing to the first floor. And we'll get to that in a minute. And I want everyone to understand something about the tavern. It was built in 1779. It is not a solid structure. It's old, it's rickety. You can walk across the first floor of the lobby and you can feel the waves in the floor where it's sunk or the floorboards have risen. When you climb the stairs, they creak. When you walk across the floor of the common area, it creaks. So even if I didn't see anyone in this area of the common area, I should have heard someone, and was nobody in the hallway. It was empty. So I simply turned around. I went back into the room. I looked at my wife. I looked at the room. Really, I was looking at the tavern, and I was like, "You win." Done. It was at that point I knew this was going to be a fun night. So on the first floor of the Talbott Tavern is the main lobby. There's a small souvenir section. You see, Bardstown is on what's referred to as the Bourbon Trail here in Kentucky, and they have a festival where you can follow this bourbon trail and stop at all these local establishments and have sample all the bourbons that are commonly sold, brewed, and distilled here, not brewed. Beer is brewed, I think. Bourbon is distilled. I'm sorry, I'm not a big drinker, so I'm not really sure how that works. But at any rate, and they also have a fully functional restaurant that serves breakfast to the guests only, but does serve lunch and dinner to the general public, which you're welcome to stop in and have. And if you're lucky enough and you stop in and you ask the staff nicely, they are very prone to allow you to go upstairs and investigate some of the rooms. Now, I say that because that's what I thought when the doorknob started to rattle. I thought somebody was trying to check out the rooms. You know, the other thing I thought was maybe somebody was up there who didn't belong up there and was looking to steal stuff, but that's another story. So we got back from dinner. We stopped and had a drink at the bar, and we went upstairs to our room. My wife went to sleep because I knew, and she knew, that my intention was to spend a good portion of the night wandering the halls of this tavern, trying to capture paranormal evidence. So I went downstairs to the first floor. I had the flash up on my camera. I'm just pointing and clicking. I got my phone out. Hey, who's here? Doing all the Junior Ghostbuster questions. Is anybody here? Anybody want to talk to me? And I sat down on this little bench. It's actually identical to the bench that you're going to see in this picture that I'm going to bring up now. And that bench is just in front of that little desk that's on the right side, just below the fire alarm. I was sitting on a little chair like that, rather, I'm sorry. And I was pointing the camera at the front door. Now, mind you, it was pitch black except for the emergency light that you see on in front of the door. It's over it. And I'm snapping pictures. I didn't personally see anything at the time. I didn't hear anything unusual. I didn't witness anything. I didn't experience anything. That's all there is to it. So, finally, after a couple hours, I went to bed. A little disappointed, I will admit. A little heartbroken. I was hoping to experience something, and I didn't. So, I went to bed. We woke up the next morning. We went to breakfast. We checked out. We drove home. So, we're going to fast forward a few days. Like I said, we stayed there on a Saturday night to a Sunday morning. The following Wednesday, my laptop was sitting on my coffee table in my living room. I was up all by myself. It was late. It was about 11:30. And I got up. I was going to watch some TV, play some video games, Skyrim, Oblivion, one of those games. I got up to go to the kitchen to get a sandwich, make myself a sandwich, get a drink. And when I came back into the living room, my laptop had shut down. It was restarting. It was rebooting itself. Now, I want everyone to understand that my laptop was not scheduled to do this until about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, because I didn't want it doing this in the middle of a video game or whatever, or watching a movie. And I was a little concerned. So I sat there and I watched it and I waited. And when it shut down, it's my Dodge Charger, 2013 Dodge Charger. When the laptop restarted, this is the picture that came up. It was this picture that I took at the Old Talbott Tavern. I won't lie to anyone. I was concerned. I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe my laptop was broken. I didn't have any clue what was going on. And then something caught my eye. And I'm going to bring up this next picture. And this is the picture with the circle around it, what caught my attention. Now, I looked at that picture and I thought, oh my God, that almost looks like a face. And I was like, no, maybe I'm imagining. No, I couldn't. This couldn't be what I thought it was. So I zoomed in. I was excited. I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. I zoomed in, thinking, okay, what am I gonna find? And this next picture is the zoomed in picture. Now, I'm sorry it's so fuzzy. It's the camera was old. This is a few years ago, and that's when I realized that what I thought was a face was actually the sign on the wall that said no smoking allowed in the building or some such. And then I saw the face, the actual face. Now, if you look at the picture, you've got, all right, now this, let me explain what you're looking at. The gate you're looking at is an accordion style gate that they lock around the souvenir section so that the guests can't steal anything. Because, and I should have mentioned this earlier, and I'm sorry, but when you check into the tavern, they give you two keys. One's to the front door, and one's to your room door. And that's because once the tavern closes, at this point, this picture, when I took this picture, the only people in the building are the guests in the rooms. So there's no staff in the building at all. There's zero staff. So they put this gate around it to lock up and protect the souvenir so people just don't steal them. So, if you look just at the left side of the frame and you follow that first upside down, or that first V, and you look at the first upside down V and come straight down, you'll see something in the image. Now, I put this through some filters that I got with this free photos program that came with my computer, and this is what's coming next. And that really shows the face in that upside down V. It's about a third of the way down, just below the edge, the bottom of the sign on to the right of it. I can make out the eye, the eyebrow, the hairline, the ear, the cheekbone. This next picture, this is a different filter I used. It, kind of brought things out. And then I started messing with the lighting, and I can really see it, and not so much in this one, but you can kind of see it. But those two, this one here and this one, it's the same filter. It's just a different gray scale versus almost a sepia. And I tell you, I can definitely see the face. And if you look real close, you can literally see the bar in the back, closer to that brick wall, penetrating, splitting that face right through from the jaw up to the right temple. And that really scared the heck out of me. I mean, this happened in my house. This followed me home. I mean, that's every paranormal investigator's worst nightmare, I think. I mean, it scared me, but it also fueled this passion I have. So that was the second experience we had. Now, the third experience my wife had, and I don't necessarily know if I want to call this confirmed, okay? I don't have any photographic evidence of it. All I have is her story, because like I said, she was in bed most of the night. She was in a room alone. Now, I want to give you a little bit of backstory to this. Evidently, one night, Jesse James, while he was staying at the hotel, and this history can be researched and confirmed. He got drunk at the tavern one night and started shooting the place up. Evidently, he thought he saw butterflies and was shooting the butterflies. There's a large mural in a room that has all of their antique furniture and memorabilia from when the tavern was in its heyday. And in front of the mural now, there's a large sheet of glass that's protecting the mural, but the bullet holes are still in the wall, and they claim they're from Jesse James. Now, Wikipedia and the Talbott Tavern mistakenly claim that the ghost of Jesse James haunts the tavern, which is not possible in my opinion, because Jesse James was killed in St. Joseph, Missouri. But it could be considered a residual haunting from an event that happened that was traumatic, negative energy floating and absorbed by the furniture and the walls, and because the mural is still there. So it is a possibility, because my wife claimed that about 3:15 in the morning she got woken up to some popping noises. She didn't count them, she didn't give me a number. I'm not going to say it was a 6-shooter, but she said she woke up to some popping noises, and they stopped, and they didn't replay themselves. They didn't repeat. So she just rolled over and went to bed, thought she was dreaming, or thought she was imagining this. But like I said, I have no way to confirm nor deny that this happened. And for her being the skeptic that she is, for her to say that, I mean, I have to give it some quality of acceptance of the truth, because she wouldn't lie to me. She doesn't approve of lying, so she wouldn't lie to make something up, especially knowing that she did not believe in the paranormal. So it wouldn't be like somebody like me who said, "Oh my God, I heard this popping noise. It was Jesse James." So, and that's it. That's our story about the Old Talbott Tavern. If you're ever in Bardstown and you're looking for a place to stay, I highly recommend the Talbott Tavern. There happens to be a haunted bed and breakfast next door to it, called the Jailer's Inn. We're gonna do a show on that in another episode. We actually captured some physical evidence there as well. So what do you think? Do you believe that the Old Talbott Tavern is haunted? I do. Next up tonight, we have Waverly Hills Sanatorium, one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Probably one of the most well-known haunted locations in the United States. Waverly Hills is an interesting place. I have to admit, I was a little skeptical, and we'll get into that in a few minutes, but I had a good time there, and it was definitely worth the time and the money. Waverly Hills opened in 1910 to accommodate patients who were being ravaged by the tuberculosis pandemic that swept across the Jefferson County, Kentucky area. In December of 1912, a hospital was opened for advanced cases. And then in 1914, a children's pavilion was added to house up to 50 children. Due to the constant repairs of the wooden buildings and the need for a more durable structure, the concrete 5-story building that we see today was built and opened in 1926. Thanks to the development of streptomycin in 1943, the cases of tuberculosis finally started lowering, and Waverly Hills closed its doors in 1961. When you pay for and secure your tickets for Waverly Hills, which run about $85 a person, you're told to arrive about 11 o'clock the night of your investigation. Now, again, kind of like the Talbott Tavern, I'm going to use the term investigation extremely loosely when it comes to Waverly Hills. And there's a reason for that. When you arrive at Waverly Hills, you're going to find yourself sitting with up to 49 other people. That's right, 49 other people. They max the investigations out at 50 people per night for 6 hours. So I was sitting there with my wife again. She's my partner in crime in all of this. And I was a little concerned, because having that many people running around while you're trying to conduct an investigation will definitely contaminate any possible evidence that you secure. So I was going to see it through though. I mean, we paid the money. I think this was a Father's Day gift. I don't remember for sure. So we're sitting there. They've got a souvenir section. They've got drinks and snacks and everything you think you'll need, or they think you'll want during the investigation. Finally, the staff comes in and you receive a safety briefing and a brief history of the Waverly Hills. After the safety briefing, you are split into 2 groups of 25. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. The 2 groups of 25 are taken into separate parts of the hospital. We'll call Group A will get the first and second floors, and Group B are taken up to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors, which the 5th floor really is the roof of the building, and it has a small 50-foot section, maybe 60-foot section that has a roof on it, and that's where the room 502 sits, and it wasn't as impressive as they make it out to be. So the tour guides take you for a brief tour of the floors, each floor that you're going to be investigating, and they're planting seeds with their little stories. And we were in Group A on floors for the 1st and 2nd floor, floors 1 and 2 is what I was going to say. So they're telling us all about all this stuff that other groups have witnessed and encountered and experienced. And one of the rooms they take you in is a room called the vault, and the vault was allegedly where they placed the personal belongings of the patients. Now here's the catch. Tuberculosis was fatal at the time. There was no cure until streptomycin was invented in 1943, or developed or found to be a cure, whatever it was at the time. You went in, there was only one way out. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's true. And their method was, when you were placed into Waverly, you started out on the 1st floor. And as the disease progressed, they moved you to the 2nd floor, to the 3rd floor, to the 4th floor, and finally to the 5th floor. So the vault was where they kept the personal possessions, but it wasn't like you were getting these back. So I don't know why they didn't just give them back to your family. Maybe it was some attempt to give you faith that you were going to walk out of there. I don't know, but we're gonna leave that at that. So we were told that there was a demonic entity in the vault. All right, so before I go any further, once the tour is over and everyone's been given their little briefing or whatever, they split you up into 2 more groups. So we'll call it A1 and A2, B1 and B2. And so you're looking at maybe 12 or 13 people per floor. You got the floor for 90 minutes. At the end of the 90 minutes, you switched. After the hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it was, we had a break, and then groups A switched with group B. So you had about 90 minutes or so per floor with about 13 people on each floor, which kind of put me at ease a little bit, because that meant there was less chance. It wasn't zero, but it was minimal that your evidence would be contaminated. So we got on the 1st floor, and my wife and I went straight for the vault. Straight to the vault, right there. Because I wanted to see this demonic entity. That's all I wanted. I wanted the vault and the body chute, which is on the 1st floor as well. So we went to the vault. And we had my spirit box. We had my Sony Handycam, which was night vision capable. We had an EMF reader. I have acquired a few tools since my initial investigation at the Talbott Tavern. We really didn't experience anything in the vault, but as we're leaving the vault, there's this long hallway that kind of it goes straight, and then it kind of zigzags around like a loose Z. Now, I'm a little on the superstitious side, go figure. So I went to a New Age shop before we went to the investigation at Waverly Hills, and I purchased a couple stones. I'm not entirely sure what the stones were. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I had 2 of them. We each had 2. One was for protection, and the other was to absorb negative energy around us. And the plan was, we were told at the New Age store that we were to leave the stone that absorbed the negative energy at the location we were going to be at as we were leaving. Don't take it home. So that's what we did. So this story is kind of cute, but it's also a little unnerving at the same time. We come out of the vault. Mind you, it's July. My wife was in a t-shirt type top and she had a pair of capris on, and they didn't have any pockets. So she had the stones tucked into her sports bra. Now, anybody out there who has worn a sports bra or has a partner who wears a sports bra, you know they're tight fitting. They're not real loose and flowing. So the stone was tucked into her bra. Now it's Kentucky, middle of July. It's humid, it's muggy here, even in the middle of the night. So her clothes were a little sticky. And as we're walking down this hallway, I hear this tink sound, this sound, and what it was the stone came out of her bra, hit the floor, the concrete floor. It bounced once and landed right at her feet. It didn't bounce away, it didn't bounce all over the place. It landed at her feet. I was able to turn my flashlight on, and it was right there. And that was a little unnerving for what we were expecting. She didn't say she felt anything reach in or anything else other than the stone falling out of her bra, and it didn't fall down, it came out from the top. And that was like, okay, all right. That was our first indication it was going to be an interesting evening. So we were going to the body shoot, which is where I really wanted to go. Regardless of where else we went, I was going to the body shoot. So, just a little backstory on the body shoot for those of you who may not be totally aware. This famous body shoot was originally designed for staff and supplies to come in and out of the hospital. When you go into the door of the body shoot, the door you walk in, you have to make a 90-degree turn to your left. As you're facing down the body shoot, the right side of the chute, of the tunnel, we'll call it a tunnel because that's what it is. In reality, it's a tunnel. The right half of the tunnel, I want to say it's like 8 to 10 foot across, but the right side of the tunnel is a ramp. It's a gradual incline ramp. It's made out of concrete, and it's a ramp. The left side, again facing down, is a series of steps. I say a series of steps because it's 3 steps, a short landing, 3 steps, a short landing, 3 steps, a short landing, wash, rinse, repeat, all the way down to 500 feet to the bottom of the chute. Like I said, it was designed to bring staff and supplies in, but due to the fatality rate of tuberculosis, the doctors started transporting the dead out of the hospital via this tunnel, and it became known as the body chute. This was done primarily to keep the patient morale as high as possible because they didn't want to be moving the patients who had died from TB out in front of those who were just coming in. Like I said earlier, when you entered the hospital with the early onset of tuberculosis, you were on the first floor. They didn't want people getting depressed and demoralized watching these dead bodies being taken out. So they started using the chute, which turned out to be a pretty ingenious idea if you ask me. There was a winch at the top, which was powered by a gasoline engine, and they just lowered the gurney out with the body on it, and the morgue, the meat wagon, whatever you want to call that thing, took them away. So we went to the body shoot, and we went in. Now, it rained a lot that year, so we only got about 2/3 of the way down the chute, and that's because the chute was full of water and mud and other stuff, and she wasn't going any further. So we were standing there at about 2/3 of the way down, and it was primarily, I'm going to use the word clean. And I say clean, I mean no bugs, no rats, no snakes, no critters, no nothing like that. So we were standing there, and we were letting our eyes get adjusted, and my wife looked at me, and she tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "Do you see that?" And she was pointing to the bottom of the chute, and we saw what looked like a white mist, and then it was moving left to right at the bottom of the chute. And I don't know how far down it was, but I can tell you, when I lifted my my video camera, which again, like I said, has a night vision function on it, it was too far out of the infrared light that I had that's on board of the camera. I didn't have any external infrared lights on it. It was too far out of its reach, and that's not saying a lot. The reach of that thing's only like 8 to 10 feet on a good day. But we could see this white mist floating back and forth from left to right. Well, we stood there and watched it for a few minutes, and I think we had enough in there, and we decided it was time to go back. So we turned around and we started heading up the stairs. She was in front of me. She had we have a flashlight that's got a red lens to it. And she was watching the stairs, and I was using the camera, trying to watch where I was going. Now that we were heading up back up to the hospital, that put the ramp on my left, on our left. And we're walking up the stairs, and we got maybe 5 sets of stairs up. And I felt this pressure, this wave hit me on my left shoulder, like something had walked past and brushed me. You know that feeling you get when you're walking in a crowded area and someone bumps your shoulder and as they're trying to get past you. And I spun, and I was like, what the hell was that? She spun around, what did you do? And I explained to her what happened. I explained to her what I felt. And we were still alone in that tunnel. There was not a single person in that tunnel. We didn't cross paths with another person until we were well out of the tunnel and on our way back into the main section of the hospital. And that was incredible for me. I really, truly wished I'd have caught something on the camera, but like I said, it was pointing down at the stairs. I didn't have it pointing up because I was using it to watch where I was going. That's one of the other downsides to the Waverly investigation, is they don't allow you to use flashlights or flash photography throughout the investigation except in the hallways. And I'm sorry, not in the hallways, but in the staircases. And the staircases are already pre-lit. You really don't need them in the staircases. And they say that you can't use the flash photography and the flashlights because they don't want you to disturb the bats. I have other reasons, other beliefs for that, but we're going to keep those to ourselves. Before I get into the next bit of evidence that we captured, and this is the big one, this is the video, let me give you a little background on Waverly Hills and one of their, let's call it their staple ghost, okay? There's an urban legend that Waverly Hills is haunted by the ghost of a little boy named Timmy. And Timmy loves to play with balls. And if you bring one of those $1 cheap Dollar General balls, you know, the vinyl ones that are not weighted and they're not balanced, and you kick it down the hole, Timmy will kick it back to you. Now, here's my problem, okay? Number one, there was more than one child who died at Waverly of TB. TB didn't care about your age. It didn't care how old you were. It didn't care how young you were. It didn't care if you were a boy or a girl or anything in between. You contracted TB, you were going to die. Number two, and this is the big problem. This is where the realist in me comes out. Let's say, for example, my wife and I are at the Waverly Hills. We're doing our investigation. We walk through the floor. We see a ball. We pick it up. We set it down. We step back from the ball. Hey, Timmy, move the ball. Timmy doesn't want to play with me right at the moment, so he doesn't move the ball. I'm like, all right, you know what? We'll come back. So we wander off and continue our investigation. Couple number two comes along. They see the ball on the floor. They pick the ball up. They take it over to a part of the section of the floor. They set it down. Hey, Timmy, come play with the ball. Timmy doesn't want to play with the ball. Maybe Timmy does play with the ball. I don't know. I'm not there. So they wander off to continue their investigation. My wife and I come back. The ball's been moved. Oh my God, Timmy moved the ball while we were gone. Damn, I wished I'd have waited. So you see where I'm coming from, okay? Again, with the number of people in the building, there's room for contamination of your evidence. Now, this video changed my opinion of that. So it was about 4:30 in the morning. We were on the 4th floor, I believe. We were wandering around the balcony. All the rooms on the 4th floor open to a balcony area because they believe that cold air and fresh air helped you beat TB. So we were wandering around and we picked up this vinyl ball. and I'm going to play this video for you, and I want you to watch the video. I want you to pay attention to certain aspects of it. Now, what you're seeing now is us. We set the ball down. I'm kind of moving it with my foot a little bit, and it's gonna come into view here in just a second.
I don't want to stay there.
And I'm right there. All right. Now you see where the ball is. Right there. There it is. You see how it's rolling. It's wobbling back and forth because these things aren't balanced. They're not. They're mass produced. They have no balance to them. They kind of curve when you throw them. Now look at the marking. It's facing the up. You see that the mark with the 3 stripes on it. Now, and you see where it is against the wall. It's about a foot from the wall. Now, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to take a couple, 3 or 4 steps away from the wall. And when I turn back, you can hear me say, "Where is it?" And I'm trying to focus the camera. And you saw the wall. And now the ball's sitting there. And there's that same mark with the 4 marks on it. And the ball is sitting dead still. It's like somebody's holding it, waiting for me to do something. And my biggest regret is that I was so tired from being up all day Saturday, so anxious and wound up and pumped full of adrenaline, that by 4:30 that morning, I had been up since like 6-7 o'clock Saturday morning, and it was 4:30 Sunday morning, and I was tired. I wasn't focused enough to realize that the ball moved. You even heard me say, are you going to move the ball for me? So I was like, oh my God. And I did not realize we captured this footage until I was home that Monday going over the footage after following the investigation. So, I mean, if you were to ask me before we went to Waverly if it was haunted, I would probably look at you and say, no, I don't think so. But after capturing that footage, I do believe Waverly is haunted. A lot of people died there. It was a huge, huge loss of life. Tuberculosis took a lot of people between the onset of it and 1943 when streptomycin was developed. I'm sorry it happened, but none of us can stop the past. But yes, I do believe Waverly is haunted, and I really want to go back. I'd like to thank everyone who's listening. If you enjoyed the video, the podcast, and you were watching on YouTube, hit those usual buttons. Subscribe, notify, and like. Let me know what you think. We really want this channel to grow. If you have any suggestions for a future video, unsolved mysteries, unexplained disappearances, something you want us to cover, drop us a line, comment, let us know. We'd be more than happy to look into it. Thank you all. And I think it's time we stop talking paranormal. Good night, everyone.